The alarms screamed through the command deck of the Eternal Horizon, but Commander Hyunwoo barely heard them anymore. He had been listening to those same warnings for 3 weeks straight. His eyes stayed fixed on the tactical display, watching red markers swallow another star system. The Vexthor were coming. "How many ships did we lose at Keller Station?" Hyunwoo asked, his voice tired. The communications officer, a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms, checked his console. 43 vessels, Commander." "No survivors." Hyunwoo closed his eyes for a moment. 43 ships meant thousands of lives, thousands of families who would never see their loved ones again. And for what? The Vexthor kept coming anyway. "Update the memorial list," he said quietly. Admiral Tae-yang stood at the center of the command deck, his old face showing the weight of every lost battle. He was from a species that lived for 300 years, and he had seen much in his time. But nothing like this. "They adapt too quickly," the Admiral said, more to himself than anyone else. "Every weapon we use, every tactic we try, they learn and counter it within days." Hyunwoo knew the Admiral was right. The Galactic Coalition had ruled this sector of space for 3,000 years. 12 different species working together, sharing technology and knowledge. They had thought themselves unbeatable. Then the Vexthor arrived. At first, no one was worried. The swarm seemed like any other threat, dangerous but manageable. The Coalition sent a standard military response. Those ships never came back. The next force was larger, better equipped. It also disappeared. Now 17 galaxies had gone silent, billions of lives consumed by the endless hunger of the swarm. "Sir," a tactical officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Dr. Jia in the research division." "Put her through," Admiral Tae-yang said. The main screen flickered, showing a young woman in a white lab coat. Her dark hair was pulled back, and her eyes showed the same exhaustion everyone felt. Dr. Jia was a xenoanthropologist, someone who studied ancient alien cultures. Hyunwoo had always thought her work was interesting but not particularly useful in wartime. "Admiral," Jia said, her voice urgent, "I need to speak with you privately." "It's about the old archives," Tae-yang frowned. "Doctor, we're in the middle of a crisis. Unless your ancient artifacts can fight the swarm, I don't have time." "They might," Jia interrupted. "Please, sir. Give me 5 minutes." The Admiral looked surprised but nodded. "Commander Hyunwoo, you have the deck. I'll be in my ready room." Hyunwoo watched them leave, then turned back to the tactical display. Another system was turning red. The Vexthor were 3 days away from the outer colonies now. After that, the core worlds. After that, the Coalition capital itself. They were losing this war. Everyone knew it. The question was no longer if they would fall, but when. 20 minutes later, Admiral Tae-yang returned to the command deck. His expression was strange, somewhere between disbelief and hope. "Commander, come with me," the Admiral said. "You need to hear this." They walked through the corridors of the massive ship, passing crew members who looked exhausted and scared. They reached the research section, where Dr. Jia waited in her laboratory. The room was filled with old artifacts, strange objects collected from dead civilizations. "Show him," the Admiral said. Jia touched her console, and a holographic image appeared. It showed a blue and green planet mostly covered in water. "This is Earth," she said. Or it was, about 500 years ago. Hyunwoo had heard of Earth, everyone had. It was a legend, a cautionary tale told to young students. A species called humans had lived there, on a world so dangerous it killed most visitors within hours. The humans had been warriors, fighters, survivors of a planet that tried to destroy them every day. According to the stories, they had destroyed themselves in a great war. Nuclear fire had consumed their world and humanity had died with it. "I know the story," Hyunwoo said. "But they're gone. Dead for centuries. That's what everyone believes," Jia said. "But I've been studying their old transmissions for years. The ones we collected before Earth went silent. And I found something." She pulled up another image. It showed lines of text in a strange alphabet. "This is a protocol, buried deep in their communication networks. A last resort distress call designed to reach any surviving human colonies across the galaxy." "There are no human colonies," Hyunwoo said. "They never left their world." "That's what we thought," Jia said. "But what if we were wrong? What if some of them escaped before the end? The protocol is designed for species-ending events. It's supposed to bring help when nothing else can." Hyunwoo looked at Admiral Tae-yang. Sir, you can't seriously be considering this. Even if humans survive somehow, why would they help us? We left Earth to die. The Coalition quarantined their system and watched them burn. Because we have nothing else, the Admiral said simply. Every fleet we send gets destroyed. Every weapon fails. We're 3 weeks away from total collapse. If there's even a chance, there's no chance, Hyunwoo said, his frustration breaking through. We're chasing myths while people die. I activated the protocol 2 hours ago, Jia said quietly. The room went silent. Hyunwoo stared at her. You what? I sent the distress call using the human frequency. If anyone is listening, if any humans survived and kept their old communication networks active, they'll receive it. This is insane, Hyunwoo said. Admiral, she violated direct orders. Using forbidden technology, sending unauthorized signals. I authorized it, Taeyang said, after she explained her findings. Commander, I remember the old stories about humans. Before Earth went silent, they sent out probes, exploration vessels. Small groups trying to find new homes. Most were destroyed by space itself. Their technology was primitive. But maybe, just maybe, some survived. And if they did? Hyunwoo asked. If these mythical humans show up, what then? The stories say they were violent, unstable, dangerous, maybe more dangerous than the swarm. Then we'll deal with that problem if it comes, the Admiral said. But right now the swarm is the only danger that matters. Jia's console beeped. She looked down and her eyes went wide. I'm receiving a response. What? Hyunwoo moved closer. Already? That's impossible. The signal just went out. They must have relay stations, Jia said, her hand shaking as she typed. Scattered across dark space, listening for this exact frequency. She pulled up the message. The text was in the old human language, English. The translation appeared below it. Message received. Cavalry incoming. Hang tight. Hyunwoo felt his blood run cold. The casual tone of the message, the strange idiom, the confidence, it was real. Humans were real, and they were coming. How long until they arrive? Admiral Taeyang asked. Jia checked the data. According to their transmission, they're already on their way. They say 3 days. 3 days, the Admiral repeated. He looked at the tactical display where the Vexthor markers were steadily advancing. They'll arrive just as the swarm reaches our outer defenses. Hyunwoo stared at the message on the screen. Somewhere out there in the dark, humans were coming. The species everyone thought was dead. The warriors from the death world. He didn't know whether to feel relieved or terrified. The warning sirens blared across every ship in the Coalition fleet. Hyunwoo ran to the command deck, his heart pounding. Had the Vexthor arrived early? Were they already breaking through? Report, he shouted as he reached his station. The tactical officer's hands moved frantically across his controls. Multiple contacts emerging from FTL space, sir, big ones. They're coming in fast at the edge of Sector 7. The swarm? Admiral Taeyang asked, already reaching for the fleet-wide communication channel. No, sir. The signatures are different. I've never seen anything like this. Hyunwoo pulled up the scan data on his screen. His breath caught in his throat. 5 massive vessels had appeared from faster-than-light travel, each one nearly the size of a Coalition carrier. But their design was completely wrong. Coalition ships were smooth and elegant, with flowing lines and artistic curves. These ships looked like someone had built them specifically for war and nothing else. Every surface bristled with weapon systems. The hulls were covered in thick armor plating, scarred and dented from countless battles. They looked brutal, functional, dangerous. Are they transmitting? The Admiral asked. Yes, sir. On an old frequency, very old. They're using the human protocol. The entire command deck went silent. Everyone turned to look at the main screen, where the 5 warships hung in space like sleeping predators. Open a channel, Admiral Taeyang said quietly. The screen flickered, and a face appeared. Hyunwoo had seen ancient images of humans before, in Dr. Jia's research files, but seeing one alive was different. The man on the screen looked young, maybe 30 years old by human standards. He had short dark hair, sharp eyes, and a small scar across his left cheek. He wore a military uniform, dark gray with red markings. This is Captain Sung-ho of the Human Expeditionary Fleet, commanding the vessel Remember Earth, the man said. His voice was calm, almost casual. We received your distress call. Heard you folks have a pest problem that needs dealing with. Admiral Taeyang stepped forward. Captain Sung-ho, I am Admiral Taeyang of the Galactic Coalition Defense Force. We didn't think your species still existed. Sung-Ho smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. Yeah, we get that a lot. Turns out reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated. We've been out here for a while, keeping our heads down. But when we heard that distress protocol, well, we couldn't just ignore it. The Vexthor swarm is the most dangerous threat the Coalition has ever faced, Tae-Yang said. They've consumed 17 galaxies. Our weapons barely slow them down. I must warn you, this is likely a suicide mission. Admiral, Sung-Ho said, leaning back in his chair. Where we come from, everything is a suicide mission. That's just called Tuesday for us. Now, are you going to brief us on the tactical situation, or are we going in blind? Hyunwoo watched the exchange with growing disbelief. This human was talking about facing the swarm like it was routine business. Didn't he understand what they were dealing with? The next few hours were chaotic. The Coalition High Council held an emergency meeting. Half the councilors wanted to accept human help immediately. The other half argued that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and potentially worse than the swarm itself. They're from Earth, High Councilor Velmoth shouted. Do you know what that planet produced? Beings that thought war was a solution to every problem. Creatures that poisoned their own world. And yet they survived, another councilor said. They survived their own self-destruction and made it to the stars. That says something. It says they're survivors, Velmoth argued, like parasites. Like the swarm. In the end, desperation won. The Coalition accepted human military assistance. Hyunwoo was assigned as the liaison officer to the human fleet. He wasn't happy about it. The shuttle ride to the Remember Earth was short but nerve-wracking. As they approached, Hyunwoo got a better look at the human ship. It was even more intimidating up close. Massive railgun batteries lined the hull. Missile tubes clustered around the bow. Point defense turrets covered every angle. This is a warship, his pilot said nervously. Not a defense vessel or a peacekeeping craft. This is designed to kill. Hyunwoo couldn't argue with that. The docking bay was Spartan and functional. As Hyunwoo stepped off the shuttle, he was met by a woman in a military uniform. She was shorter than Sung-Ho, with long dark hair tied back in a practical braid. Her uniform had a red cross symbol on the shoulder. Commander Hyunwoo, she said, offering her hand. I'm Lieutenant Da-Yoon, combat medic. Captain Sung-Ho asked me to give you the tour before the briefing. Hyunwoo shook her hand carefully. Human customs were strange to him. Thank you, Lieutenant. As they walked through the ship, Hyunwoo noticed things that disturbed him. The corridors were narrow and cramped. The lighting was harsh and bright. Everything seemed designed for efficiency rather than comfort. They passed a training room where human soldiers were exercising. Hyunwoo stopped and stared. The gravity in that room was clearly elevated. He could tell by how they moved. They were training in conditions that would crush most Coalition species. Is that safe? He asked. Da-Yoon glanced at the training room. Oh, that's just standard conditioning. We keep the gravity at 1.5 Earth standard for basic training. Helps keep everyone sharp. 1.5? Hyunwoo couldn't believe it. That would injure most of my crew. Yeah, we learned pretty early that most species can't handle Earth gravity, Da-Yoon said. We'll adjust the liaison sections to match Coalition standards. Don't worry, they continued the tour. Hyunwoo saw weapon armories filled with firearms that looked brutal and efficient, medical bays equipped for treating injuries that would kill most beings, recreation rooms where off-duty soldiers were watching historical documentaries about human wars. How many wars has your species fought? Hyunwoo asked, unable to help himself. Da-Yoon thought about it. Major ones? Maybe a dozen really big ones. Smaller conflicts? Hundreds. Thousands if you count all the tribal and regional stuff before we unified. And you're proud of this? Proud? Da-Yoon looked surprised. No, Commander. We're not proud of our violent history, but we learned from it. Every battle taught us something. Every war showed us what we were capable of, both good and bad. We learned that we're really good at fighting, but also that peace is worth fighting for. They reached the main briefing room where Captain Sung-Ho waited with several other human officers. Admiral Tae-Yang was already there, projected as a hologram. Now that everyone's here, Sung-Ho said, let's talk strategy. Show us what we're dealing with. The tactical display lit up, showing the advancing Vexthor forces. Red markers covered entire sectors. The numbers were overwhelming. One of the human officers, a woman with gray hair and hard eyes, whistled low. That's a lot of bogeys. The swarm adapts quickly, Tae-Yang explained. Every weapon we use, they develop countermeasures. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, viral agents, nothing works for long. What about good old-fashioned bullets? A human officer asked. We haven't used projectile weapons in centuries, Taeyang said. They're too primitive, too inefficient. The humans exchanged looks. Sung-ho smiled. Primitive can be good. Hard to adapt to something simple. Admiral, we have a proposal. Let us handle the next engagement. We'll take point on the defense of Athen 7. You watch and see how we operate. Captain, Athen 7 is a civilian colony with 3 million residents, Hyunwoo said. This isn't the place for experimental tactics. Commander, Sung-ho said, his voice suddenly serious. We didn't come here to watch. We came here to fight. Trust us or don't, but we're going in either way. Better if we coordinate. Admiral Taeyang was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well, Captain. The defense of Athen 7th is yours. The coalition fleet will support your operation. Good, Sung-ho said. Then let's get to work. Lieutenant Da-eun, prep the marine companies for planetary deployment. Commander Hyunwoo, you're with me. Time to see what humans do best. As they prepared for battle, Hyunwoo felt a strange mixture of hope and fear. These humans seemed confident, almost eager. But the Vexthor had destroyed everything in their path for months. He just hoped the humans knew what they were doing. The swarm was coming. And soon they would all find out if humanity's reputation as warriors was deserved or just ancient myth. The defense of Athen 7 began at dawn. Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Remember Earth, watching the tactical display with growing anxiety. The Vexthor swarm had entered the system 3 hours ago, a massive wave of biological ships, each one pulsing with hostile life. There were thousands of them. All human vessels, this is Captain Sung-ho, the human commander said calmly. Weapons free. Execute attack pattern Delta 7. Let's show these bugs what Earth sends its regards looks like. The human fleet moved forward with shocking speed. Coalition ships were designed to maintain safe distances, using long-range weapons to pick away at enemies. The humans charged straight into the swarm. What are they doing? A coalition officer gasped. Getting close, Sung-ho said as if it was obvious. Can't miss at point-blank range. The human warships opened fire. Railguns launched solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missiles streaked through space, leaving trails of fire. Point defense systems created walls of bullets that shredded smaller swarm creatures. The violence was immediate and brutal. Enemy vessels attempting to adapt to our weapon systems, a human tactical officer reported. Good luck with that, another officer said. Let's see them adapt to kinetic energy. Hyunwoo watched in amazement as the human strategy became clear. The Vexthor were trying to analyze the weapons being used against them, searching for patterns they could counter. But there was no complex technology to analyze. The humans were using simple physics, mass and velocity. A chunk of metal moving fast enough would destroy anything, and there was no defense against it except moving out of the way. Swarm vessels breaking formation, the tactical officer called. They're trying to surround us. Perfect, Sung-ho said. All ships go loud, full weapons release. The human vessels unleashed everything at once. The space around them turned into a storm of metal and fire. Vexthor ships died by the dozens, their biological armor unable to withstand the sheer volume of destruction. But the swarm kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. They're breaching the orbital defense line, Hyunwoo said. Some are getting through to the planet. Then we follow them down, Sung-ho said. Lieutenant Da-eun, are your Marines ready? On the screen, the young medic appeared. She was now wearing heavy combat armor, a rifle in her hands. 2nd Marine Company standing by, sir. We're ready to drop. Then drop. All companies planetside deployment. We've got civilians to protect. Hyunwoo felt his stomach drop as he realized what was happening. You're sending ground troops? Against the swarm? That's suicide. That's Tuesday, Sung-ho said again with that same calm confidence. Drop pods launched from the human ships, streaking through the atmosphere like meteors. Hyunwoo watched the feeds from coalition forces already on the ground. They were retreating in good order, trying to evacuate civilians while holding defensive positions. But the Vexthor were everywhere, crawling through streets and buildings like a living plague. Then the human Marines landed. The drop pods hit the ground hard, their doors blasting open. Soldiers poured out, immediately engaging the nearest swarm creatures. The sound of gunfire was constant, overwhelming. Human weapons used chemical propellants, another ancient technology that the coalition had abandoned. but it was terrifyingly effective. Lieutenant Daun led her unit down a main street where coalition soldiers were pinned down by a mass of Vexthor warriors. "Covering fire," she shouted. "Move up in teams. Overlapping fields." The humans advanced like a machine. One team would fire while another moved forward. Then they would switch. It was simple, basic infantry tactics, but executed with brutal efficiency. A young coalition soldier, his blue skin pale with fear, stared as a human private stopped beside him. The human was young too, barely old enough to serve in most coalition militaries. "First time fighting these things?" the human asked. Her name tag read Minseo. "They don't stop," the coalition soldier said. "We shoot them and they just keep coming." "Yeah, they're tough," Minseo agreed. She fired her rifle, dropping 2 Vexthor that were trying to flank them. "But here's the thing, they might not know fear, but we know anger. And we're really good at being angry." The battle raged through the city. Human Marines fought alongside coalition troops, holding the line while civilians evacuated. Hyunwoo monitored everything from orbit, watching the casualty reports climb steadily. 30 human soldiers dead. 50. 80. "Sir, shouldn't we pull back?" he asked Sung-ho. "The casualties are mounting. We hold until every civilian is clear," Sung-ho said. "Those are the orders. Those are always the orders." A coalition defensive position was overrun. The Vexthor swarmed over the soldiers there, and the screaming stopped quickly. A human unit was nearby. They heard the coalition distress call. "Command, this is Sergeant Jae Sung," a rough voice came over the radio. "We've got coalition troops under attack at Grid Point Delta 9er. Permission to assist?" "You're already engaged with enemy forces, Sergeant," the human command officer said. "Your position, respectfully, sir, screw our position," Jae Sung interrupted. "People are dying. We're going in." The human unit broke away from their own battle and charged toward the coalition position. They hit the swarm from the side, weapons blazing. The Vexthor turned to face this new threat, giving the coalition soldiers a chance to fall back. Hyunwoo watched Sergeant Jae Sung on the video feed. The man was older, maybe 50 years old. His armor was scorched and dented, but he moved like someone half his age, coordinating his troops with quick hand signals and short commands. "Fall back to the next line," he shouted to the coalition soldiers. "We'll cover you, move." A coalition officer tried to protest. "We can't leave you here when we're humans," Jae Sung said. "We're good at this. Now move before I shoot you myself." The coalition troops retreated while the humans held the line. More Vexthor came, drawn by the fighting. The humans formed a tight defensive circle, their weapons never stopping. "Running low on ammo," one soldier called. "Then fix bayonets," Jae Sung replied. "We hold until they're clear." Hyunwoo couldn't believe what he was seeing. These humans were willing to die for aliens they had just met. Why? The evacuation continued. Thousands of civilians were loaded onto transport ships and sent to orbit. The fighting was intense, brutal, and close. Coalition soldiers who had never fired a weapon at anything closer than 100 meters found themselves fighting next to humans who treated close combat as routine. Lieutenant Taeyun moved through the battlefield like she had been born there. She would fight for 30 seconds, then stop to treat an injured soldier. Human or coalition, she didn't care. Then she would pick up her weapon and fight again. A young coalition officer was wounded, his leg torn by a Vexthor claw. He was screaming, certain he was about to die. Taeyun reached him in seconds. "You're okay," she said, her hands already working to stop the bleeding. "You're going to be fine. Look at me. Look at me. You're fine." "It hurts," the officer gasped. "Pain means you're alive," Taeyun said. She injected something into his neck, a painkiller from her medical kit. "I've seen worse. You'll be walking in 2 weeks. Now stay down and let us work." She finished treating him and moved to the next casualty. Behind her, human Marines formed a protective line, keeping the swarm away from the wounded. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it finally ended, the last civilian transport had left the planet. The Vexthor had been pushed back but not destroyed. They would return. The cost was severe. 140 human soldiers dead, 300 coalition troops lost. But 3 million civilians had been saved. On the Remember Earth, Captain Sung-ho read the casualty reports without expression. Hyunwoo stood beside him, still processing what he had witnessed. 140 soldiers. Hyunwoo said quietly. "How can you consider that acceptable?" "I don't," Sung-ho said. "Every death tears at me, Commander. But we saved 3 million people today. That's the math we do. That's the choice we make. Your people fight like they have nothing to lose. No, Sung-ho corrected. We fight like we have everything to lose. Every person we save is worth dying for. Every life protected is a victory. That's what it means to be human. Down on the planet, Private Minseo sat with a group of coalition soldiers. They were exhausted, traumatized by the battle. One of them, the young soldier she had fought beside, looked at her with something like awe. "How do you do it?" he asked. "How do you keep fighting when it's so terrible?" Minseo looked up at the sky where Earth existed somewhere far away. "We're from a world that tried to kill us every day," she said. "Every animal wanted to eat us. Every disease wanted to infect us. The weather, the plants, the water, everything on Earth was dangerous. We survived by being tougher, meaner, and more stubborn than anything else. We learned that when life gets hard, you don't quit, you fight." She stood up, offering her hand to the coalition soldier. He took it and she pulled him to his feet. "Nothing in space scares us," Minseo said, "because we've already survived the worst place in the galaxy. And now we're here to help you survive too." The coalition soldier looked at this young human woman who had fought like a demon and saved his life. For the first time since the war began, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. 3 weeks after the defense of Athens 7, the humans and coalition forces had fought together in 6 more battles. Each one was brutal. Each one was won. And each one cost lives. But winning individual battles wasn't enough. The swarm kept coming. Commander Hyunwoo had moved permanently to the Remember Earth, serving as the primary liaison between human and coalition forces. He had learned much about humans in that time, some of it inspiring, some of it terrifying. He learned that humans got injured regularly in training and considered it normal. He learned that they ate foods that would poison most species and called it spicy. He learned that they had evolved on a planet with so many diseases that their immune systems were constantly at war with invisible enemies. Most importantly, he learned that humans meant it when they said they would protect the innocent, no matter the cost. Dr. Jia arrived on the Remember Earth with urgent news. She met with Admiral Tae-yang, Captain Sung-ho, and Commander Hyunwoo in the main briefing room. "We found the Nexus," she said, bringing up a holographic display. The image showed a massive structure larger than a planet. It pulsed with organic life, a giant heart pumping commands to the entire swarm. "That's the Central Coordination Center," Jia explained. "The Vexthor are a hive mind. Every creature in the swarm receives orders from the Nexus. If we destroy it, the entire invasion force will collapse." "Where is it?" Sung-ho asked. "Deep in swarm-controlled territory," Tae-yang said, "surrounded by thousands of their ships. Getting close to it would require penetrating their entire defensive network." "So, a suicide mission," Sung-ho said calmly. "Yes," Tae-yang admitted. "We would need to send a small strike team to infiltrate the Nexus while the main fleet creates a diversion. The team would need to destroy the core from inside. The chances of survival are 0, Sung-ho finished. "The chances are 0, but if it wins the war, then it's worth doing." A human scientist named Hye-jin spoke up. She was young, wearing glasses and looking uncomfortable in the military setting. "There's another factor," she said. "I've been studying Vexthor biology. They adapt to everything, but they have a weakness. Their immune system can't handle human pathogens." "Explain," Tae-yang said. "Earth was a disease factory," Hye-jin said. "Humans evolved alongside thousands of deadly viruses and bacteria. The Vexthor have never encountered anything like human diseases. I can create a bioweapon based on common human viral strains. If we deploy it at the Nexus, it will spread through their entire network." The room went quiet. Hyunwoo understood the implications. "You're talking about biological warfare." "I'm talking about survival," Hye-jin said. "The swarm has killed billions. They won't negotiate, won't surrender, won't stop. This is our chance to end it." "How long to develop this weapon?" Sung-ho asked. "It's already developed," Hye-jin said. "I just needed authorization to propose it. We can have it ready in 48 hours. Admiral Tae-yang looked troubled. "The Coalition banned biological weapons centuries ago. Using them violates every treaty we have. Then it's a good thing we're not Coalition members." Sung-Ho said. We'll take responsibility for deploying it. If there are war crimes charges later, they fall on humanity. Captain, Hyun-woo said, you would sacrifice your species' reputation to save billions of lives? Yes, Sung-Ho said. Without hesitation, that's the choice we make. The plan was approved. A strike team would be assembled, the best soldiers from both human and coalition forces. They would infiltrate the Nexus, deploy the bioweapon, and try to escape before the structure collapsed. Everyone knew try to escape really meant die trying. Volunteers were called for. Every human Marine volunteered. So did hundreds of coalition soldiers who had fought beside them. Captain Sung-Ho selected his team carefully. Lieutenant Da-eun would come as the medical officer. Commander Hyun-woo insisted on joining. He had seen too much to sit safely in orbit while others risked everything. Several other humans and coalition soldiers completed the team. General Bo-ra, the commander of human ground forces, would lead a massive assault on the swarm's outer defenses. It was a diversion designed to pull Vexthor forces away from the Nexus. Everyone knew it was a one-way mission. The night before the mission, Hyun-woo found Captain Sung-Ho in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Can't sleep? Hyun-woo asked. Never can before something like this, Sung-Ho said. I keep thinking about everyone who's going to die tomorrow. Both the ones I'm ordering into battle and the ones we're trying to save. You don't have to do this, Hyun-woo said. The coalition could assign someone else. No, Sung-Ho said firmly. I give the orders. I take the risks. That's what leadership means to humans. We don't ask our people to do anything we wouldn't do ourselves. That's why your soldiers follow you, Hyun-woo said, understanding at last. That's why they follow anyone, Sung-Ho said. Respect has to be earned. Every day, every mission. The attack began at dawn. The coalition and human fleets launched a massive assault on the swarm's outer territories. It was the largest battle since the war began, thousands of ships on both sides. General Bo-ra led the ground assault personally. Her forces landed on 3 Vexthor-controlled worlds simultaneously, drawing massive numbers of swarm creatures away from the Nexus. All units, push forward, Bo-ra commanded over the radio. Make them think we're trying to take these worlds, keep them busy. The fighting was intense. Human and coalition soldiers battled the endless waves of Vexthor warriors. They knew they were buying time with their lives, and they did it anyway. While the battle raged, the strike team moved in stealth. Their ship was small, fast, and equipped with technology designed to hide from swarm sensors. They slipped through the chaos of the battle and approached the Nexus. There it is, Da-eun whispered. The Nexus was horrifying up close. It pulsed with organic life, its surface covered in what looked like veins and arteries. Smaller Vexthor ships moved around it like antibodies protecting a vital organ. We're going in, Sung-Ho said. Stay close, stay quiet. They docked with the Nexus at a small entry port. The team moved inside, weapons ready. The interior was worse than the exterior. Walls of living tissue, floors that pulsed with each beat of the massive heart structure, air that smelled of decay and alien biology. This place is disgusting, one coalition soldier muttered. Focus, Sung-Ho said. We need to reach the core chamber. That's where we deploy the weapon. They moved deeper into the Nexus, encountering Vexthor defenders at every turn. The fighting was close and brutal. Every corridor was a potential ambush point. Every room could be a trap. A coalition soldier was grabbed by a Vexthor warrior. Before anyone could react, Da-eun shot the creature at point-blank range and pulled the soldier free. Keep moving, she shouted. Don't stop. They lost 2 soldiers in the first hour, 3 more in the second. By the time they reached the core chamber, the team was down to 5 people. Sung-Ho, Da-eun, Hyun-woo, and 2 human soldiers. The core chamber was massive, with walls that pulsed with bioluminescent light. At the center was a structure that looked like a giant brain, connected to thousands of neural pathways. That's it, Sung-Ho said. Plant the weapon. They set up Hyejin's bioweapon, a device that would release the engineered virus directly into the Nexus's circulatory system. Once deployed, it would spread to every Vexthor connected to the network. Alarms began blaring. The Nexus knew they were there. "They're sealing the chamber," one of the soldiers shouted. "We need to move now." "The weapon needs time to activate," Sung-Ho said, checking the device. 3 minutes minimum." Vexthor warriors began pouring into the chamber, hundreds of them crawling over walls and ceiling like insects. "Defensive positions," Sung-Ho commanded. "We hold here." The 5 survivors formed a circle around the weapon device. They fired in all directions, trying to hold back the endless wave of enemies. The Vexthor kept coming, dying by the dozens but never stopping. One of the human soldiers fell, overwhelmed by the swarm. Then the second soldier went down. 2 minutes, Sung-Ho shouted, reloading his weapon. Da-Yun was hit by a Vexthor claw. She stumbled but kept fighting, blood running down her arm. Hyun-Woo shot the creature that had hurt her, his own weapon running low on ammunition. 1 minute. The Vexthor were everywhere now. Hyun-Woo felt claws tear at his armor. He fought desperately, knowing that every second mattered. "Device is armed," Sung-Ho shouted. "Everyone fall back to the ship." They ran. Da-Un and Hyun-Woo made it to the corridor, fighting their way back toward the docking port. Behind them, they heard Sung-Ho still firing. "Captain!" Da-Un screamed. "We have to go!" "The device needs protection until it fully deploys," Sung-Ho replied. "Get to the ship, that's an order." "Sir, no. Go!" Da-Un grabbed Hyun-Woo and pulled him away. They ran through the corridors of the Nexus, the structure beginning to convulse around them. Behind them, they could hear Sung-Ho's weapon firing, slower now, running out of ammunition. Then silence. They reached the ship and launched immediately. As they fled the Nexus, the device activated fully. The bioweapon spread through the structure like wildfire. The Nexus began to collapse, its organic systems failing one by one. Hyun-Woo watched on the scanner as the massive structure died. Somewhere inside it, Captain Sung-Ho had given his life to save the galaxy. "He stayed behind," Hyun-Woo said, his voice hollow. Da-Yun was crying. The bioweapon worked exactly as Hee-Jin had promised. Within hours of the Nexus's destruction, the Vexthor swarm began to collapse. Without the central coordination, individual creatures became confused, disorganized. The virus spread through their biological network like a plague, attacking their shared immune systems. Ships that had been attacking the coalition fleet suddenly went dark, drifting lifelessly through space. Ground forces that had been overwhelming defensive positions simply stopped fighting and died where they stood. The war was over, but the cost had been terrible. Commander. Hyun-Woo stood in the memorial hall of the coalition capital, reading names carved into walls of black stone. 40,000 human soldiers had died. 200,000 coalition forces had fallen. Billions of civilians had been lost before the swarm was finally stopped. And one name stood out among all the others. Captain Sung-Ho, Human Expeditionary Fleet. The funeral was held 3 days after the final victory. Representatives from every coalition species attended, along with thousands of human soldiers. The ceremony was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Admiral Tae-Yang spoke first, his old voice carrying across the vast gathering. "We gathered here today to honor those who gave everything so that others might live. The humans came to us when we were dying. They fought beside us when all hope was lost. They showed us what true courage means." Dr. Jia spoke next, holding a datapad with trembling hands. "I studied humanity for years before they returned. I read their history, their literature, their philosophy. I thought I understood them. But I was wrong. You cannot understand humans by reading about them. You have to see them fight, see them sacrifice, see them protect the weak even when it costs them everything. That is when you truly know what it means to be human." Lieutenant Da-Un spoke for the human forces. Her arm was still bandaged from the injury she had taken in the Nexus. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was strong. "Captain Sung-Ho believed in something simple," she said. "He believed that life was worth fighting for. Any life, every life. He didn't care if you were human or alien, soldier or civilian. If you needed help, he would come. If you needed protection, he would stand between you and danger. That's not just what it means to be a soldier. That's what it means to be human." She paused, looking out at the massive crowd. "People have asked me if humans are fearless. We're not. We're terrified most of the time. But fear doesn't stop us. We fight anyway. We protect anyway. We sacrifice anyway, because someone has to, because it's the right thing to do. After the ceremony, the Coalition High Council held an emergency session. High Counselor Velmoth, who had once argued against accepting human help, now spoke in favor of a historic decision. "We have witnessed humanity's strength," Velmoth said. "We have seen their courage and their sacrifice. They saved us when no one else could. It is time we acknowledge what they have earned. I propose we offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Coalition, with a permanent seat on the Security Council." The vote was unanimous. When the decision was announced, humans across the fleet celebrated quietly. They had lost too many friends to celebrate loudly, but there was satisfaction in knowing they had earned their place among the stars. Private Minseo, now promoted to lieutenant after her actions at Athens 7th, stood with a group of Coalition soldiers she had fought beside. They were sharing drinks, carefully chosen beverages that humans could tolerate without getting sick. "I still can't believe you eat that," one Coalition soldier said, watching Minseo eat something they called kimchi. "It's fermented vegetables," Minseo said. "It's good for you. It smells like it's already dead." "That's how we like it," Minseo laughed. "Fermented, spicy, and strong enough to kill bacteria. Welcome to human cuisine." The Coalition soldier shook his head in amazement. "Your species survived a death world, created weapons that almost destroyed you, learned to eat poison, and now you're here saving the galaxy." "You're insane." "Maybe a little," Minseo agreed. "But we're your kind of insane now." Months passed. Reconstruction efforts began across the Coalition territories. The Vexthor threat was gone, but the scars remained. Entire worlds needed rebuilding. Millions of displaced civilians needed homes. The work would take decades. Humans threw themselves into the effort with the same intensity they had shown in war. Human engineering teams helped rebuild damaged stations. Human medical personnel trained Coalition doctors in trauma care techniques learned from centuries of warfare. Human teachers opened schools to educate children who had lost everything. Dr. Gia published her comprehensive study of human history and culture. The work, titled "The Species That Refused to Die," became required reading in Coalition schools. For the first time, the galaxy understood where humans came from and what made them different. Earth was no longer just a cautionary tale. It became a pilgrimage site. Coalition citizens traveled there to see the world that had produced such remarkable survivors. They walked the ancient battlefields where humans had fought each other. They visited the museums that displayed weapons from the wars that nearly destroyed humanity. They stood at the memorials that honored all those who had died before humans learned to live in peace. And they began to understand. Commander Hyun-woo, promoted to admiral after his actions in the Nexus mission, oversaw the creation of the first joint Coalition Human Military Academy. It was built on a neutral station called Unity, designed to train the next generation of defenders. On opening day, Hyun-woo stood before the first class of cadets, humans and aliens standing together in formation. "You are the future," he told them. "You will learn from each other. Humans will teach you about endurance, adaptation, and tactical thinking. Coalition species will teach humans about cooperation, technology, and peaceful conflict resolution. Together you will be stronger than either could be alone." A young cadet raised her hand. "Sir, is it true that humans used to fight wars against each other?" "Yes," Hyun-woo said. "For thousands of years, humanity was divided. They fought over resources, territory, beliefs. They nearly destroyed themselves several times. What changed?" the cadet asked. Hyun-woo smiled. They realized they were all human, that their differences were tiny compared to what they shared, and they decided that working together was better than dying apart. It's a lesson the entire galaxy learned when the swarm came. Lieutenant Da-eun joined the academy as chief medical instructor. She taught both human and alien students about combat medicine, using her experiences from the war. Her first lesson was simple. "Every life matters," she told her students. "I don't care what species you're treating. I don't care if they're your friend or your enemy. When someone is hurt and needs help, you help them. That's not just military doctrine. That's being decent." A student asked, "What if helping them means you might die?" Da-eun was quiet for a moment, remembering Captain Sung-ho staying behind in the Nexus. "Then you die," she said simply. "Because some things are worth dying for. Saving lives is one of them." 5 years after the war ended, a new memorial station was completed. It was built at the site where the Nexus had been destroyed, where Captain Sung Ho had made his last stand. The station was named Remember Sung Ho, and it served as both a memorial and a research facility. The dedication ceremony brought together humans and coalition species from across the galaxy. Admiral Tae Yang, now retired but still influential, spoke to the crowd. "This station stands as a reminder," he said. "A reminder that we are stronger together. That courage comes in many forms. That sacrifice is never forgotten. Captain Sung Ho and the thousands who died with him gave us a future. Now it is our responsibility to make sure that future is worth the price they paid." A statue of Sung Ho stood at the center of the station. It showed him in combat armor, weapon raised, standing protectively in front of both human and alien figures. The inscription read simply, "He stood between danger and the innocent. That is the measure of a hero." Scientist Hye Jin, now leading the station's research division, had continued her work on human biology. Her findings had revolutionized coalition medicine. Human immune system research led to new vaccines for diseases that had plagued alien species for centuries. Human psychological studies helped develop better trauma treatment for soldiers suffering from combat stress. Humanity's greatest weapons weren't their guns or ships, Hye Jin explained in a lecture. Their greatest weapons were their adaptability, their determination, and their refusal to give up. These are things we can all learn from. The galaxy had changed. Humans were no longer myths or legends. They were neighbors, colleagues, friends. Human restaurants opened on coalition worlds, serving food that adventurous aliens tried despite warnings about the spice levels. Human entertainment became popular, with their action movies and war documentaries providing endless fascination. Coalition technology improved by incorporating human design philosophy, simpler, more robust, easier to repair in combat conditions. Human culture was enriched by coalition art, music, and philosophy. The exchange was mutual and beneficial, but the military remained vigilant. The Vexthor were gone, but the galaxy was vast. New threats would emerge eventually. They always did. Lieutenant Min Seo, now a captain, commanded a mixed unit of human and coalition soldiers. She drilled them hard.